I actually got cut because I had too many concussions my junior year, and that's kind of how my coaching career started. I asked if I could be a student assistant for the strength staff. I learned a lot. I've been fortunate enough to have really good strength coaches throughout my entire career, both all the heads and assistants. I do believe that everybody's an athlete in some way, shape, or form, because at the end of the day, everything that you do like has some athletic component to it. Picking up your luggage to put it in the overhead and on the airplane is an athletic movement, and you'd be surprised how many people can't do that shit.
Yeah. If you look at life as a sport, you have to be an athlete, right? Because being athletic it's a spectrum, not like an on and off switch.
You know, I look at all my athletes like they're my little siblings, right? I have a very different way of how I lead. I look at them in ways that, you know, let me give you everything that I dealt with, or I experienced, because you're not going to get everything from everybody in one shot. Life is going to hit you with the lessons that not everybody's going to be able to give you.
So how do you navigate through all those whole things to A, get you to be able to do your job and to advocate for them to the best of their ability, B, to constantly earn their trust to know that like you're there for them?
So a lot of my big athletes I got lucky with. I'll be very honest with you, right?
Okay, welcome to another episode of the Myokinetix podcast. Today we have a great friend who we're actually going to be doing a lot of work with, and he's an incredible coach and an amazing human being. So that's why I really want to get him on the podcast today. His name is Juwan Griffin. He is the owner of JuJu Performance in Ho-Ho-Kus, New Jersey. And I just want him to be here just to share his knowledge, especially as an athlete first and building an incredible training facility, you know, built by athlete for athletes. So Ju, welcome to the show, bro.
Appreciate it. How I got here is like not the conventional way.
I know, dude. We got to talk about that because obviously, you know, even with your background, you're Trinidadian, right? So, and to even play football, which is not a common sport.
So there's a story behind that.
All right, I want to hear it. So let's unpack.
So, I lied my way into playing football.
Okay.
Growing up, I always wanted to play football. Like, I felt like basketball was too slow, soccer was too slow, like baseball was too slow. And like back in elementary school and middle school, they used to give you the sheets on like, yo, try out for football. And I would always check my weight and be like, oh, I can play football. And I show my mom, and my mom would be like, get good grades and I'll let you play. Got good grades, never let me play. You know, we grew up in the generation that we were allowed to go out and play. So during the summers while she was at work, I would go out and play. My best friend at the time was like, yo, just pull up to practice. I was like, all right. So I started going to practice. June, I started going to practice. June of my 8th grade year, started going to practice. July, I'm in practice. The week that we got our equipment was when they announced who the captains were. First time playing football, first time in the team, first time like doing anything. They named me captain with 3 other guys. We get our equipment that day. So I had already had it planned out. I was going to give my equipment to my best friend. He was going to bring it to me to practice. And I was just going to tell my mom I was playing basketball outside, right? Knowing damn well I was at football practice. What I didn't account for was my brother lived on the side of town that we had practice. My brother saw me at practice, but didn't say anything. I didn't even see him at practice. Like, he was on the outside of the gate just watching me. So we got our equipment, car pulls up, honk. Yo. And I know it's him, so I like pretending I don't hear him.
That's the best trick, right? When you know if someone's looking at you, you're like, no, if I don't make eye contact, it's not a thing.
So, and I have the equipment in my hand. So he honks again. He's like, yo. I try to give it to my best friend. He's like, no, bring that shit over here right now. I was like, oh boy. So we drive back to my mom's. I was like, I'm still playing football, right? He goes, just shut up and go upstairs. So go upstairs. My brother has a conversation with my mother. Long story short, the conversation is, if this is going to help him go to college for free, let him do it, right? And that's how I started playing football 8th grade year.
Nice, man. That's awesome. So how long did it take for your mom to show up to your first game?
She did not start showing up to my games until my junior year.
Wow.
Yeah, she had to Like no, I think it was like late sophomore year. She came to one game. I was playing linebacker, and I will never forget the day. It was against Northern Highlands in October, and I went on a blitz. I ended up sacking the quarterback, but you know when you hear a good pad crack, my mom screams in the stand. She thought something happened. Right?
Oh.
So I get up and I start like jumping around, happy as hell.
Mhm.
Right? She goes, "That's normal," and like everybody that was there was like, "Oh yeah, that's definitely Juwan's mom right there." Right?
Yeah.
So it took her like about 2 years to like accept it, and then now the woman's watching like 4-screen football on Sundays now.
Deca box on NFL Sunday.
TV on, and I'm just sitting here like, how much has changed in 10 years?
Yeah.
So yeah,
bro, that's incredible. So what was it like, especially like during the recruiting process? You know, explaining that to your mom, because we have a lot of first generation football players that we work with, right? And it's hard to explain that to parents because they just don't know the ins and out.
No, they don't. And like I was just having this conversation with my kids, my high school athletes yesterday. Getting recruited 10 years ago was much easier than it is to get recruited now, right? Because right, wrong, and indifferent for the transfer portal. Like back 10 years ago, like in order for you to transfer, you had to get released by the head coach for you to like even talk to other schools, right? So recruiting wise from high school, you know, I didn't get a lot of looks, right? I had to like go out there and, and I had no idea what I was doing. Like I was splicing up my own huddle film, like what I thought was good, and I was just sending it out, right? I didn't really get many like offers, but I got some looks. And then me with my egotistical self, I was like, well, I think I know I'm a Division I player, so I'm gonna go with the Division I school, and that's how I ended up at Army. So there was nothing else. It was like Division I or nothing for me. High school, nobody really was there to tell me, listen, if you go to this school, if you go to like a D3 school, you can play today. Or a D2 school, you can play today. Nobody really told me that. I really did a lot of my like recruiting and whatnot on my own. So yeah.
And how was the adjustment like going to Army?
If you've ever been in a Caribbean household, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. Like you're already in a militant household anyway. Yeah. So like them to the Army is almost like a cakewalk by the time you get there. Yeah, honestly.
And what was your experience like playing for Army?
First year was rough. So my first year we were not that good, right? We were still in I think it was a 13-year losing streak to Navy at the time. It was my head coach's first year coming in. No, sorry. It was a second full season my freshman year. It was a second full season. We were his first recruiting class. You know, the regime was still starting to change. That first year, I think we went 2-10, right? Sophomore year, we turned it around. We went 8-5. We beat Navy, broke the streak, and won a bowl game. The next year after that, we went 10-3, won another bowl game, beat Navy, and then senior year we went 11-2, beat them again, and got another bowl game off that. That was, I think, senior year was when we like demolished Houston by like 70 points.
Wow.
To like 12 or something like that. Don't quote me on the score, but something like that.
That's nuts, man. So when like let's say towards the tail end of your college career, like what was your thought process? Were you gonna try for pro day? What were you?
No, I actually got cut because I got too many concussions.
Oh wow. Yeah, okay.
So I actually got cut because I had too many concussions my junior year, and that's kind of how my coaching career started. Got cut in August of 2017. I asked if I could be a student assistant for the strength staff. And that's how I really started like being on the floor coaching. Like really started coaching in a college weight room. as a junior in college. And I
Dude.
did that for 2 years.
Wow. So like you were able to channel your passion for football, but in a different avenue.
Yeah. That's how I got into coaching. It kept me around the team because I don't think I would have been able to survive West Point if I didn't stay around the team. So
Yeah.
that was the closest thing that I could do right there. And, you know, I learned a lot. I've been fortunate enough to have really good strength coaches throughout my entire career, both all the heads and assistants. I mean, all the guys that I know are either owners of gyms right now or they're head strength coaches at like, you know, really good schools right now. And it's nice to know that because I'm in the field now, I can easily call them and like pick their brain a little bit, just off the fact that they trained me when I was in college.
Dude, that's great. And that's what I love about going to your facility. I think is that environment is almost like I'm walking into like a D1, you know, training facility. Like when I went to Maryland, I would volunteer my time, you know, helping the team too. So like that environment, I feel like if you're not an athlete, it looks nuts. But if you're an athlete, you love that because it just keep you again mentally sharp and physically fit.
Actually, though, and it's funny you bring that up. So like I was literally having this conversation with a parent, and they were asking us like, "Oh, do you train old folks like me?" I was like, "You're still an athlete."
Yeah.
It's like, nah, those days are done. I was like, "Let me ask you something." I was like, "Do you pick up groceries?" Yeah. It's like, "Do you have to pick up your child?" I was like, "Yeah, the 3-year-old." I was like, "It's still athletic stuff." I'm gonna ruffle feathers with this. I do believe that everybody's an athlete in some way, shape, or form because at the end of the day, everything that you do like has some athletic component to it. Whether it's picking up a bag of groceries or like the stupidest thing that I tell people that's so true is picking up your luggage to put it in the overhead and on the airplane is an athletic movement, and you'd be surprised how many people can't do that shit.
Yeah.
Right? So like this is why I say it's important for everybody to actually like, you know, strength train to what you need. Like don't do it just because like somebody's telling you to do it. Do it because you want it for yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Because at some point you want to be independent of yourself and be able to do that on your own. Right? Like not all the time do you want somebody to help you because you have a carry-on that you can't put up in the overhead because you don't know how to pick up a piece of luggage and put it over your head.
Yeah. In the beginning of when I first started Myokinetix, I always have this saying, and I'll tell people, it's like, you know, life, if you look at life as a sport, you have to be an athlete, right? Because being athletic it's a spectrum, not like an on and off switch.
Correct.
Right? Because there's different variable degrees of needs that you need.
Telling you to run 100-meter sprint.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like I'm not telling you to go out there and like, oh yeah, go catch a ball and then run 40 yards after that. That's not what I'm telling you. But like, do what you need to do in your everyday life.
Yeah.
Because you're already gonna do it.
But again, for that parent who has a 3-year-old, what if the 3-year-old started running into traffic?
Correct.
You need to be able to sprint.
You gonna need to be able to sprint.
Yeah. So like I love that approach just because we get this all the time because you know, we're highly specialized in working with athletes. When parents come in like, oh, no, like I'm not an athlete. You guys can't. I'm like, listen, at the end of the day, we're treating human body first.
Yes.
So a joint, muscle, all the same. Now, what can that joint handle? What can that muscle handle load-wise and stuff? That varies in degree, right? You're not going to be running like, you know, a zone coverage as a parent.
Right.
But there'll be certain scenario that you want to be prepared for.
Yeah.
We had this one guy that was working with us. He ran after a dog who ran out of his store, and he was sprinting to rescue the dog before in front of oncoming traffic.
Yeah.
Saved the dog, blew both hamstring out. Again, you got to be able to train for those things, right? Because you just never know what's life going to throw.
You're gonna have to do it.
Yeah. So
that's rough. Though.
So talk me through about your transition process and how do you end up with like JuJu Performance. What's the vision? What's the mission?
Oh, so I worked at another facility for 3 years. That really helped me, like in terms of like my mindset. It helped me with business. It helped me with like athletes. It also gave me like the platform to like bring in like my own type of athletes and whatnot. And then, obviously everybody COVID hit, and I'm like, we were all unemployed, right? So I'm like, you know what? Let me figure out this business thing. I opened an LLC in July of 2020, and I was doing online training. So I was just giving out programs to like all my friends that were in the army that needed training for the physical fitness test or whatever. So I was doing that, and I was like charging them. I think at the time I was only charging them like $75 for a month of programming, right? And I was just trying to like rack up extra dollars and whatnot, because as you and I both know, this field is unforgiving when it comes to the money. So I'm like, all right, so did that, and then I think it's a good time to say this. So there was a point that I was like, you know what, I want to go into the team setting, and I actually interviewed with the Jets to do an internship, and now it was my first time kind of being in like the corporate side of things, right? So I didn't know that, when you go through an interview, you'll go through the first one, second one, third one, and then like you still gotta wait for an offer letter, right? I didn't know what this was. Nobody in my family really knew what this was. So like I'm thinking after the third one, when they told me this internship starts at X date, I'm like, all right, cool. So I put in my 2 weeks notice. I'm like, cool, like gonna go intern with the Jets. That didn't happen. I was out of a job, and I was literally stuck waiting for about 2.5 months.
Wow.
Before I got an answer back. Where that ended up coming about, I started doing my house visits because there were still my athletes and my clients that like still wanted to train with me, and I wasn't doing anything because I thought the internship started at one day, and it did. Cool. Started doing that, started realizing like, damn, I just made like quadruple the amount of money with less people in less hours than I did when I was working at my last facility. Okay. So I started doing, and then luckily it was around like April time frame, so it was getting nice. So I was doing all field work, speed work, all of that. And then in the back of my mind, it started hitting. I was like, damn, like this is nice now. But like once October hits, like this shit's going out the door. And prior to, because of my connections and because of the relationships that I built, a client of mine introduced me to another gym owner who was looking to do a sports performance program, brought me into his gym. So that's how I ended up at Different Breed in Teaneck. And, I was there for about 10 months, and then I just outgrew the space. Like, I just had more kids than I had for space, which is perfectly fine, right? After that, that's how I ended up at the gym that I'm at now. And once I got there, I was just renting out the space, and was just renting out the space, was getting more clients. That was when I was really starting to really grow a lot, because I was getting a lot of my basketball players. I was like right in the heart of, where a lot of high schools are between, Bergen, Bosco, Joe's, Paramus Catholic, you got all of them right there. And even the public schools like Ridgewood, Highlands, Ramapo. So I was like really getting a lot of those guys in, and girls too. And, about a month and a half ago, landlord asked me if I wanted the gym. I was like, yeah. Like I didn't even think about it. I didn't think about where am I getting the money. I didn't think about what I'm doing. I didn't even think about like, what does it mean? I said, yeah, like didn't even ask no questions. Like, I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And then he was like, okay, so we'll iron out everything and we'll go from there. And then in the back of my mind, it was like, what did I just sign up for? Right. But I think in the back of my head, I always wanted to have something to call my own. Right. And I've always had that vision of recreating that college Division I atmosphere for not only just like current athletes, but also like adults, like who are former athletes who still do athletic things, like, there's a lot of people that still play flag football in
Mhm.
their like 30s, 40s, and 50s. Still a lot of people. Pickleball is like the fastest growing sport right now,
Mhm.
right? A lot of people playing pickleball. You got a lot of people, a lot of women play tennis still,
Mhm.
right? So I wanted to create that atmosphere in the right space and in the right area and the right location to be able to do that. And I feel like I got it now,
Yeah.
right? And now it's just growing it at this point now, and just taking it off from there. So like running joke I always tell people is like year one starts October 1st of this year. Like this is the first year right here on Tuesday.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's first off, congratulations, and then second thing, it's like just reminded me like when we took on the space that we have downstairs. Like when I was looking, I was like, this is way too big. Like, what am I doing? But then the only thing that kept me going was like just the passion I had, and I see that with what you have too, right? Because if you lead with passion first, then people, dollars, and all that stuff will follow. Where most people will go with money first, then the passion's just kind of in the back burner. Where for us, like I think at the end of the day, I thank God every day with the opportunity that I have to help people, and I feel the same way. When I get to talk to you and like the environment you created, because let's put it this way, right? Like you do strength conditioning, I do physical therapy. That's like the basic thing that we do, but really we're here to just develop young adult to be real adult, so that way they can go on and pursue their dreams or whatever that they have in mind, and then we get them to be professionalized early, right? They need to learn how to be on time.
Yeah.
They need to learn how to eat. They need to learn how to communicate what doesn't work, and they need to be able to advocate for themselves, and they need
You're
to
the uncertified specialist or uncertified therapist.
Yeah.
That, like, what people don't realize is like they also come to you with a lot of like you're in the middle of a training session. Like it's not just like, yo, Natty, go do that bench, go do that row, go. It's like you're also talking to them in between, like how's your family? What's going on? This, that, and the third. Like you're also building that relationship and connection with them, which, I always felt that transcended, just the idea of being a coach, right? As I'm the youngest of my siblings, I look at all my athletes like they're my little siblings, right? I have a very different way of how I lead. I don't lead in such a like coach athlete relationship that like I don't act like I'm so much older than them, because in reality I'm not. Like the difference between me and the high school kids right now is the same difference in age between me and my big brother, right? So like I look at them in ways that, let me give you everything that I dealt with or I experienced, because you're either A, you haven't experienced it yet and you're going to, or B, just be aware and cognizant of it, because you're not going to get everything from everybody in one shot.
Yeah.
Life is going to hit you with the lessons that not everybody's going to be able to give you, right? And I've always welcomed that challenge with leading a lot of my athletes to like, this is the real that's going to happen once you get to college, right? Whether that's in sports, whether that's in life, whether that's in like relationships, like this is the real that you may encounter once you go. Right? Yeah. So I always enjoyed and welcomed that aspect of the coaching life for me too.
Yeah, dude, it's such a great privilege, right? And I reflect on this a lot when parents bring their kids in, they give us so much trust, right? When handing over the child, like, hey, here, like help me with this child, right? So I take that as a great privilege where we get to like, tell them like, hey man, I seen this, let's go this way instead, right? You just kind of steer them in the right direction.
Yeah.
And then they also give me tons of feedback for myself too. Like, all right, hey, oh, well, I never dealt with that before. All right, let's work through this together. I think what I enjoy the most is solving problem that comes up with them at the exact same time.
Literally. And like people look at me crazy when I like tell the parents like, thank you for trusting me with your kid. Is like that goes such a long way, because like when you start to realize that there are some parents who just don't like let you train with anybody and everybody or whatever the case may be, like it is a privilege to like take somebody else's kid, because like that parent's trusting that you have the like morals and coaching and expertise to like make their kid a better human being at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I really do.
And I mean, you also have opportunities to work with like big time athletes.
Yeah.
Right. So talk me through about that. Like how, like what's your approach, right? Obviously, because and the way I see it is like when you work with guys and girls who have bigger names, there's a lot at stake. Because people think that's like, oh, people are just showing up and you're just treating them. Like at the end of the day, there's a lot at stake for them. There's a lot of family situation. There's NIL money involved, right? So things get a little bit muddy.
Yeah.
So how do you navigate through all those whole things to A, get you to be able to do your job and to advocate for them to the best of their ability, B, to constantly earn their trust to know that like you're there for them?
So a lot of my big athletes I got lucky with. I'll be very honest with you, right? My first professional athlete I ever had was Elijah Riley, right? And I say I got lucky because E and I lived 3 doors away from each other in the same building, right? In college, right? And reason I say I got lucky was because COVID hit and he texted me and asked me like, hey, like I can't really do much. I was already in the field. Like, can you do this? Is when I was doing online programming. Like, hey, can you like write up some programs for me? And I was doing that, right? He was in Connecticut, I was in Jersey, and that's how I really started training him. And then that, 4 years later down the road, and we're still training together right now, and going from there. The other big time athletes that I've gotten, it's not that I got them at that point that they were a big time athlete. I got them because I just wanted more athletes in general, right? I didn't, half the time you never know who's going to actually make it to like high level college ball or even professional level, right? You never know, right? But with me, I just wanted more athletes. I just wanted to train, and I just wanted to have a group of men and women that I wanted to like, that wanted to be there to train, have fun, and compete. And like, I wanted to coach because that's where my best coaching comes. That's when my best coaching comes out. My best coaching comes when like there's like competition, there's shit talking, there's like a lot of that going on. And like this summer showed that a lot with my college group. In terms of like dealing with the business aspect, right? Because that's always a interesting thing to deal with. Like I only just started dealing with that this year, maybe about like last year, right? And I'm still learning in that space, right? Because you're depending on who you're dealing with and who you're talking to, you may not even be dealing with the athlete, you may be dealing with the parents, you may be dealing with the agents, you may be dealing with the parents and the agents. Like it's a very muddy water to deal with. The best advice that I could give any coach that would listen to this podcast trying to navigate that is know what your price is, like know what your worth is, and like stick to it, right? Because at some point you got to draw the line. Like the common thing that big time, I don't want to say the players because it's not the players half the time, but like agents and parents will kind of hold over your head is like, because my kid is this, they're gonna bring you this. You don't definitively know that.
Yeah.
You don't know how much X this person is going to bring. And you can't even directly correlate that because you don't even know who's coming in.
Yeah.
Right? So like there has to be a point that you draw the line. Now I'm not saying don't use the content, don't help yourself out and whatnot. There has to be a line that you draw that you're like, you're not just selling your soul and then getting nothing on the back end.
Yeah.
Either, right. And so that's the business aspect that like even to this day I'm still learning and navigating myself.
Yeah. Like I definitely have like a golden rule where like I wouldn't compromise my ethics, my principles to dilute what I built so far to just accommodate individuals.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, like I'm planning on doing this for God willing the next 40, 50 years for as long as possible. And I want to do that by just build meaningful relationship with families, right? I look at it as a family relationship. Like every time we have someone's coming in that we're going to work with, like, hey, it's not the individual, it's the family they're working with. Like,
Yeah.
how do we do that? How we actually grow together? Like myself and that family.
Yeah.
All right. How do we navigate that? Because the way I'm looking at it is I want to be one of the person they call, one of the people that they call, like when things goes bad, because I have that trust and I know they know that my heart's in the right place. I'm gonna point them to the right direction, and I have no skin in the game. It's like I'm not invested how well they're doing. I'm just invested in them.
And that's the big thing. And I think that's where you made a good point there, is like being tied in and connected with the family, I think helps with the whole business aspect of things, because like at the end of the day, as long as the families know that you're in it for their child's best interest and not for anything else, right? Then like everything else gets like washed away. Like the money, the NIL, all that just gets like washed away, because at the end of the day, you're focused on the kid. You're focused on like how well they do, how healthy they are, and then how successful they are. Right?
Yeah.
Because like at the end of the day, like anything that I want to see, like I want everybody to be better than well, better than what I was, but better than what they thought they could be too. Right? Because like, you know, sometimes you have this image of like who you think you are, and I want you to be better than that person, right? Only way you do that is with like consistency and hard work.
Yeah,
honestly, and with the right people around you who's helping you do that as well too.
Yeah, I think you brought up a good point. Like helping athletes and family curate like right circle, because not many people are gonna have that genuine interest, right?
No.
Because they're gonna think about like, oh, I better get through this because they're gonna help me with this and that, right? I mean, I talked to my wife at length about this of what we get to do, like the privilege that we have, like where I stepped out of family dinners, vacation so many times just to take on calls, and those calls are usually like injury calls. It's never good calls.
Yeah.
Right. So like the reason one, I was at an engagement party for a family member, and then I got a text from one of my athletes like, hey, I just tore my ACL. Yeah. And I'm just like, hey, I gotta step out right now, because my job is to, like, I gotta A, talk them off the ledge, B, provide some clarity of what's next, how we're doing this, and then and then from there, like, that's always my job. Yeah. Right. And the hardest thing for you and I, this, is to be completely shut off. I can't shut off. It's not an on and off switch.
Never.
For me, like, I could be like, hey, is this urgent? It's urgent. All right, cool. I'm stepping out. Yeah. If it's not, all right, cool. Can I call you this and that? Right. Yeah. And I think when we welcome people in, and this is why it's important, because we're looking at ourselves as a collective exclusive circle, right? When people are coming in, we also don't want people to, exploit us for the resources that we have, which that happened in the past before. And it created like, a bad environment for everybody. So now when we have people come in, we like, vigorously ask them about like, what's their vision? What are they in it for? What are they trying to do? And if they having a hard time articulate that and is only equate to dollar sign, then it's really hard for us to work with such, group of people.
Right. And what people don't realize how many late nights, early hours, and time like we've put in. Like I couldn't even count the amount of free sessions and free hours and free time and resources I've given to like get to here. Like people will look at me like, oh, this guy got his own facility, 8 years into coaching, da 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 da. It's like, yeah, in those 8 years, you didn't realize how many free sessions I've given out, or how many free speed clinics, or how many free like whatever, like time wise, to just get my name out there to get there, right? I'd imagine you probably gave up a shit ton of time to like get to where you're at. So like people don't realize that, which is why that's why I kind of like doing it, because I'm in it for the kid. Like obviously at some point, bills got to get paid and whatnot. Yeah. But like at the end of the day, like we're just in it for like helping, whether it's the kid or the parent or whoever that walks in through the doors. We're in it to helping them, and that's the bottom line right there. And obviously building a relationship, because like it's those relationships that has me with the community that I have right now. Right? Like the environment and the community that I've created, like I never really thought about it until like, you know, you look back and you're like, damn, like we've done some shit over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Right. And I've obviously have not done this by myself. You know, I've had a lot of people along the way that have helped me. So like people will see like, oh, Ju's the only one running this business. No, yes and no. Like, am I the face of it? Am I doing like majority of the work? Yeah. But like, am I a one-man army doing everything? No, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not. And like people have to realize that as you grow, like there's going to be a sticking point that you are going to have to ask for help. Right. And lesson for all athletes, it's okay to ask for help. Right. Like we can't do everything by ourselves. Some point you are going to need that help.
Yeah.
Ask for it.
No, I mean, like I mentioned to my team all the time, like the reason we're able to get to where we are right now is the average of the people that we have.
Yeah.
And the one point I always say, like, you know, my mission is so big, I can't do it alone.
Yeah.
So I need great people around me at all time, you know, yourself included, to make sure that this thing come to fruition. Right. And each and every day we come in here, the stakes get higher and higher. You mentioned like not sleeping, stay up at night. Like, dude, like I do the exact same thing. Like over this past, in the OTAs, we were, you know, fortunate and blessed to be able to help with like so many of the pro athletes. Yeah. Then, you know, there's situation where, you know, people are not getting better and they want to come work with us full time. And rather than going to like the facility to do so. So my job is like, I'm up at 3 a.m., like planning out rehab plan, what we're doing this week. You know, like if someone's, you know, if you work with like high school athlete, they come, you know, 3 times a week at most, 4 maybe. If you work with pro guys, they come every day. Right. So now I have to vary. I have to look at like the amount of, you know, stress we're putting on the body. When are we going to recover it? All that stuff. Like I'm up at like 3 a.m, planning everything out. I'm in here at 7, training for 2 hours, like doing rehab, doing like return to sports stuff
for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
And then
lucky you.
And then like there'll be time like I told my wife, I was like, hey, listen, today is going to be 7 to 9.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm here at 7 a.m. I'm not coming home. I'm not leaving till 9. So that means I don't get home till 10. Right. And like there's time where like I'll go to like either the hotel during like, you know, camp to treat, make sure everyone's good. But that's I take that as great honor, great privilege, you know, because not everyone get to do that. And like my main thing, and I tell everyone, my team, is like, listen, like just look at where you are, because 3 years ago you prayed for something like this.
Yes. Yes, literally. Like that goes back to what I was saying earlier. Like look back, like take a moment to like sit down and like look, don't like look, because it's easy for us to like look ahead. Like what do we want and whatnot. It's hard to sit down and like reflect, like, oh shit.
Yeah.
We got some shit done over the last few years or so.
Yeah.
And you know, part of the things I always tell people is like, or I tell coaches, is I've listened to a decent amount of podcasts over my time, right? Especially in my younger years. I say my younger years, I'm barely 8 years in, but too often I think the problem that I see is that like we really talk about X's and O's, like training and coaching a lot, but we don't talk about the interpersonal relationships and how you actually build, like you build the community and you build the people that you want around, right? Especially in the private sector. Private sector is a very like interesting like industry when it comes to like gym owners and whatnot, because the easy way to go about it is you could just mass like market for everybody and say that you do everything for everybody and you're servicing everybody. It's very different when you niche it down a little bit and you're like, you're looking for a particular type of people, right? Because you want to create that environment. Like I tell people all the time, like I'm looking for former athletes. Like I'm looking for current, I'm looking for former athletes, or I'm looking for badass parents that just want to get after it, right? Because there's the way I coach, I coach hard and I love hard just as hard, right? And What I don't want is that you can't handle me pushing you,
Mhm.
right? Or any intern or trainer or staff that I bring on who's going to be just as hard as me, maybe even tougher.
Mhm.
Like, I don't want you to fold under that,
Yeah.
right? Like, your training's going to be enjoyable,
Mhm.
but training's also going to suck ass if
Yeah.
you want to see results,
Mhm.
right? Like, most people who've seen results haven't always had the best training sessions.
Yeah.
There were some shitty ass training sessions that you had in there that made it a hell of a lot harder. But those hard training sessions yielded probably more of the rewards and the benefits on the back end, right? Like, I have this thing that I've been doing. I don't know why. It's not something that like I planned out or anything. Every Friday when I do my workout, I'll post it and I'll say earn the weekend.
Yeah.
Right. And I just started doing it out of nowhere. Didn't even plan it or anything. And like now everybody's like catching on to it. Like, Ju, like I had like 3 people text me. It was like one sent me their workout and it was like, I earned my weekend. I didn't even
It's
tell
great.
them,
Yeah.
right? Like another guy texted me and was like, yo, I fuck with your message about, earning the weekend. Like, and it's like now, like, I'm like, okay, like I got other people who are watching me. Like, I like that. Like, I like that. That's a sense of accountability.
Yeah.
Like now, if I don't tell people to earn the weekend, now they're gonna question like, did Ju earn his weekend this weekend? And I'm gonna be like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Well, because it's accountability on both ends, right? Because you need accountability for yourself. Great story actually. Like one of the strength coach, Coach Mike, he texted me 2 days ago of him erasing my name off the board for the back squat PR. And then yesterday I came in, I'm like, all right, you know what? I haven't hit heavy single in so long. Let me just see where I'm at. I tie my PR at 385, but then the rest of the day my body's shot, right? But I'm just like, you know what? I haven't felt this beat up, but it's a great feeling. I was like, all right, next 4 weeks, I'll put on this training blocks real quick. Let's put my name back up on the board because you want to constantly push each other, right? And like you're earning the weekend message is great. Because I'm older, I'm 36. I'm gonna go. My thing is gonna be I'll piggyback what you're doing. I'll probably say like earn your retirement. That'll be sick, right?
I'm nowhere near there. I'm 28.
Yeah.
Nowhere near there. Not even. Like, I just started doing flag football again.
Yeah.
I was like, why the hell was I not doing this like years ago?
Yeah.
Probably because I was working 7 days a week.
Yeah.
But that's beside the point. But like, that's a very big thing that's actually a really good point. Like, for anybody that listens to the podcast, like if you're in PT or if you're in strength training, like find a sport and go compete in it. Like whether it's like jujitsu, whether it's like tennis, whether it's even pickleball, right? Like go because like it's one thing, and I'm speaking from experience, right? It is one thing to train. Like I train 4 days a week, right? I have a rest day and then I have my weekends, right? It's one thing to train all those days, and like there'll be days that you'll like actually look forward to your training, and then there's days that you're like, damn, do I really have to sprint today? Do I really want to sprint today? But when you go out and like display your athletic prowess out there and you're like, oh, this is why I did this. Like this makes sense. Like that's what you want to see. Like train it because you enjoy it, but also go out there and express it too. Right? Because like, why not? Like, go have fun. You're gonna make friends, you're gonna meet new people, right? You're gonna put yourself in a different environment, and it may be uncomfortable, but guess what? Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Like that's just life, right? And I say that for everybody, kids and adults. And it's just an overall great feeling.
Dude, it's I think we're innately wired to chase something greater than what we are right now. And I think this is just me zooming out. Like as society, what we lack now is level of competitiveness and not being able to chase our true potential.
That's because we give out participation trophies for
exactly.
everything.
And we chase comfort.
Yes.
Everything is all geared towards comfort, right? I mean, like quick story. I came home one night. My neighbor has Domino's right in her front door. I'm just like, man, I would kill to have some Domino's pizza right now.
Yeah.
But then, nothing like those thin crusts. But I say if I eat like, and I have to like go like, if I eat this, what am I gonna feel the next day? I'm gonna feel so bloated. I'm gonna like wake up with like carb hangover. I'm like, not worth it. Would it be comfortable at that moment? Would it be like a really comfort thing to just sit on the couch and just crush the whole thing? Yes. But at what cost?
So I have a rule.
Mhm.
Right? So fortunately, unfortunately, I passed Cheesecake Factory going to and from work.
We take the same route.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
It is sickening.
Yeah.
Right? So cheesecake is obviously my favorite dessert.
Yeah.
Hands down, right?
Regular cheesecake, New York style, or
Like red velvet.
Red velvet is good.
Red velvet.
It's good.
Fire.
Celebration cheesecake's also great.
Yep. I haven't had the celebration. Red velvet, pineapple upside down, the mango, key lime, the cinnamon swirl one, and the raspberry lemon cheesecake. Those are like my 7 cheesecakes.
Side note, I got a free cheesecake for my birthday and I crushed it 2 days ago. I got the pumpkin pecan cheesecake. It was good.
So
was
like
good.
this is so this is my rule, right? So I got my Apple Watch out.
Yeah.
So I'll look at the calories on the cheesecake.
Yep.
And whatever the calories are,
it's 1,300 minimum.
I have to burn triple the amount in order for me to eat the cheesecake.
Yeah.
Right? So like I can't touch the cheese. If it's 1,300, I can't touch the cheesecake unless I burn 3,900 calories.
Yeah.
Do you know how much work it is?
So much
to
work.
Burn
Yep.
3,900 calories in the day so that you could go eat that cheesecake?
Yeah. So people who are listening, for context, if you want to burn a pound, you have to burn around 3,500 calories. Yes. So that's a lot of work.
Yes.
And if you walk, let's say 15,000 steps, you might burn close to like 800 calories.
800, maybe.
Maybe, depending on how hard you walk,
Yeah.
the amount of effort.
Like you're doing a granny power walk at
Yeah.
that point. That's a hard maybe.
Yeah.
So like this is why I just go on the assault bike.
Yeah.
Like I'll just be on the assault bike, like just killing myself for. I mean, I think the last time I was in the assault bike, I think I was on it for like 52 minutes.
Yeah.
In order for me to finish out burning the calories. Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah. Dude, honestly, there's time when I had that mindset, and by the time I got done, I'm like, I don't even want it. I was like, I don't even want it.
Mhm.
Or there's times where I'm like, I'll eat half.
No, you know what it is? I feel so the way my body works, when I do any type of conditioning, my body craves food so bad.
Mhm.
Like I eat a hell of a lot more when I start doing conditioning. That's why I started conditioning 4 times a week now. Every training session I end with conditioning now. I eat everything.
Yeah. And you need that. That's a good, healthy relationship that you have with food, right? Like,
I'm not the type of person to weigh my food. Like, I don't have time for that shit.
Yeah,
Like,
it's not food restriction.
No.
We just had a dietitian that came on last week, and she was talking about how like food has become like there's eating disorder and there's disorder eating.
Yes.
And disorder eating we see more and more, where people are like so obsessed they can't have this, they can't have that, and we actually see it way more in young men.
Yeah.
Thanks to the trend like TikTok and all that stuff.
Because they want to have abs, they want to be ripped, they want to have. Everybody wants to look good with their shirt off. Like, I'm stealing that quote from one of my good friends, JD. Like everybody wants to look good with their shirt off, right? Nobody wants to go to the beach not looking good.
Yeah.
Right. And obviously looking good is and each person's perception, right? But you want to feel confident within your body wherever you decide to go.
Yeah.
So that's why people are building a bad relationship with food. I would argue I've probably seen more people buy scales for food in the last 6 months than I probably have in the last 6 years.
Yeah.
Honestly, right? I could never do that.
Mhm.
Like, I was never the type of person. I know I eat healthy. Like, I don't eat out. I cook all my food, right? I'll go to my mom's and eat her home cooked food. Like, if I eat out, it's like, I'll probably go to a brick oven pizza spot and I'll fuck up some pizza, but like with some hot honey on it.
Yep.
But like outside of that, like I'm not really doing anything too crazy, right? But like if you just work hard, 3 to 4 times a week, you wouldn't have to have that disordered eating issue with food.
Yeah.
Like just work hard.
Yeah.
Like nutrition is very simple.
Mhm.
Half the plate of protein, I would say the other like 3/4 of the plate with veggies, and
Yep.
like a little small piece of carbs.
Exactly.
Right? It's not that hard. Your carbs are easy.
Mhm.
Either rice or a potato or bread.
Yeah.
Veggies, you know what a veggie looks like.
Yeah.
Protein, you all know what proteins look like.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
It's not I think, and I'm going to say this in the most respectful way possible. I am not taking away from nutritionists or dietitians or anything like that, because everything, just as hard as strength coaches have to get a CSCS, it is much harder to get to be an RD, right? And I'm not taking away from that. However, we have made like dieting and eating clean way too complicated.
Yeah.
When it really doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
It does not have to be that complicated, right?
Yeah.
But we like, and I see it a lot with my high school athletes, like, they think that they need this like specialized diet catered toward them in order for them to see their results. No, you don't. You can literally eat 3 meals a day and add 2 core powers into your day. And I promise you, if you do that consistently for 6 weeks, you will start to see some weight. You will start to see some weight gain.
Yeah.
We've made it way too like complicated. And again, this is not including those who do have eating disorders or those who do have certain dietary restrictions like allergies and nuts. So I want to make sure I'm clear. Like, I'm not taking away from those.
Yeah. You're talking to the masses.
I'm talking to the masses. Like, you're making this way too hard. Your breakfast could be a sweet potato, a steak, and some eggs.
Yeah.
And some fruit. Congratulations. You just had a healthy breakfast.
Yeah.
Like, was that hard? And it don't even take that long to make any of that. That should take you less than 10 minutes.
You know what's so funny, man? I see that everywhere. And we can talk about nutrition, but we apply it to fitness. We're going to apply it to PT because, you know, what we're really good at in this country is monetize and profitize every single thing, label it, and then run ads, make you feel really crappy when you don't follow that thing. So that way, look at this fundamentally. Psychologically speaking, the only way you get people to spend money is you have to create a gap where they feel less than, and for them to feel whole and complete is they have to buy these things.
Correct.
Right? And then we see that more and more. In fitness, you see, oh, you need this template, you need this, you need that, you need this, right? For PT, like, hey, you need to do this exercise. Great. But then what you see now is like, oh, you need these modalities, you need this recovery machine. Oh, you need to take this drugs, you need to take this supplement.
Red light therapy, a sauna, cold tub, like all of it.
I think at the end of the day, like, all good things come readily available for free, as sleeping, as training, moderating, how like, are you putting great effort when you're training?
Yes.
Right? If you're just sandbagging it, you're not getting the best out of it.
No, you're not.
Right? Same thing in rehab. I tell all the time, like, dude, you're gonna come here, you're not gonna work hard. I can't help you. At the end of the day, that's that knee you gotta live with, your shoulder, that's your career. Like, you know,
that's your life.
Yeah.
Forget career. That's
exactly.
Your life.
And I make it very clear when people try to come in and work with us, because they always like, what in it's for you? It was like, honestly, I just want to help you.
Yeah.
Overcome your own obstacle. Because at the end of the day, if we just stop blocking our own blessing, we'll usually be okay. Right? But then there's all this other message and narrative. And this is why I feel bad for the younger generation, because they have way more information. They don't know how to filter out which is good and bad information. And I think that's why, you know, what you do is extremely important, because you're, in a way, you're filter out what works and what doesn't work for them based on evidence, personal experience, and past result.
Yeah. And one thing that I am, I would say that I'm very cognizant of is I will admit when I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I will admit it privately and publicly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I said or did something, I'll admit that I was wrong on it, right? I know I don't know everything, right? I would argue that I probably don't know most things right now. I just know the things that I know have worked for me for a very long time. And what I do is I still learn. Like, I still spend 45 minutes a morning on my own continued education. I practice it on myself first. And then I go and apply it to like my athletes or whatnot, right? So like, I know I don't know everything. I'm still young and green into the game just as much as, you know, the little intern that just graduated from college with his master's in exercise science,
Mhm.
right? I'm always still learning, which is why like I am not the type of coach right now, and I don't feel that I'm at that point right now to sell any of my like products online outside of training,
Mhm.
right? Like I'm not. There's a hell of a lot of coaches that I respect that are much smarter than me that I'm still learning from every day. I'm like, nah, we're not putting out a program yet,
Mhm.
or we're not putting out that ebook yet, or whatever the case. Like, there's still a lot to learn and grow from. And, you know, that's because I'm still going through what you just talked about, that filtering process
Mhm.
of like, okay, what's good about this? What's not so good about this? Are you just selling a fad, or are you actually on to something right here? Like that requires like that requires a lot of time and research on your own,
Mhm.
right? And you have to like figure that out, right?
Yeah.
Because nobody can really, because if you just take other people's opinions, then it's not you filtering it, you're filtering what everybody else has done already, right? So what good is that doing you?
Yeah.
You don't have your you essentially just don't have your own belief system at that
Yeah.
point, right? You're just using the belief system of others at that point to dictate what you have.
Yeah. It's require a lot of high level of ethical moral to know
Yes.
what you're good at or you're not good at. I mean, I don't know if you heard of the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, where like, to explain to the listener is the more novice you are at something, you have a high uh level of perception that you are an expert at something. But the more you know about something, you have a a perceived knowledge that you know nothing.
You know nothing.
Right?
Yeah.
So like it's funny because they did a study on like on a advanced pilot where they take a group of like fighter pilots, and they say, okay, these people have been doing for 10 years, these people have been doing for 1 year, and they rate their level of confidence. The people who've been doing for 1 year has way higher confidence than the people who've been doing for 10 years.
Yeah.
And then what that contributed to is that they have less experience, they have less exposure to error. So therefore, it's like young. It's like when you're being young, right? You're like, the youth is wasted on the young because yep. Exactly, because they don't have that knowledge. And again, that's why having a conversation with you, because I believe in iron sharpen iron, in being able to like have someone like you that I can always throw some ideas in and we bounce back and forth, because that's how we grow together. Like the whole thing we have is a white belt mentality where like we're always going to learn. When you're pursuing mastery, it's a never ending process, right? And then my advice to people, like if you talk to someone who's like deemed to be a guru, like be very cautious with that, because for you to admit that you know everything is dangerous, right? And we see this over, let's say, like in the medical field. That's why there's a big mistrust, especially during COVID, when people claim to be the science, where if you know the scientific process is hypothesis, test hypothesis, and then retest it again.
Test it again.
Yeah, right? I think what we're missing is that whole thing. And they're like, well, I'm an expert, so you should listen to me. I was like, yes, but you should also be okay with being challenged.
Yes.
Right. And I think that's what we have. We have like an expert class who's not able to be challenged. And then if you call them out, they get all defensive, and then they start throwing their degrees at people, right? Like when people come in here, I don't introduce myself as Dr. Natty. I just say, hey, I'm Natty.
Yeah.
Right? Because at the end of the day, I'm a person first.
Yeah.
Right? We're all human. Right? I went to school to specialize in this thing. Doesn't mean I know everything. Right? Doesn't mean, because if I have that, that egotistical self, like that I know everything, then I stop learning.
Yes.
And that's the last thing I want to do.
Yeah.
So, I want to cap it off this podcast. Obviously, big news. We're going to be working together. We're opening up our clinic in JuJu Performance starting next week, October 1st. So, I mean, honestly, bro, I got to ask you, like, what make you want to have us in there?
Oh, remember when I said earlier in the podcast where like, yeah, I'm going to take on this space. And I had no idea what the hell I was doing. I was like, all right, now I got to sit down and figure this shit out. Mm-hmm. The first thing I was like, okay, what does everybody else have that I currently don't have in the space? first thing was like physical therapist. And now this circles back to going back before I even met you.
Mm-hmm.
One of your PTs, Kevin, I was already
shout out to Kevin.
Yeah, shout out to Kevin. I was already using Kevin for Eli, right? And I was already sending Kevin some of my other guys. So I was trying to get Kevin into the gym like almost like last year. And then it just didn't work out. It just didn't work out because I couldn't get a room for him. I was like, oh shit. And then obviously I met you, and then you put it in my ear. It was like, yeah, I'm looking to expand and come into Bergen County. I was like, okay. But at the time, I didn't have the space to do it. So when this opportunity arose, and I'm like, okay, what's the one thing that, you know, all the other gyms in my area have that I don't, right? And then what do I have that a lot of the gyms in the area don't have? I have 40 yards of turf, and I have about, you know, 800 square feet of blacktop, right? I was like, okay, so I got that going for me. I got hella parking. I'm right off of 17. It's like, so what don't I have? It's like, I don't have a physical therapist. And I was like, Natty. And I got on the phone with you, and I was like, in the back of my head, I was like, he's probably not going to do this. I was like, he's probably not going to do this. And then when I brought you and Christy over, and you guys were like on board with it, I was like, he's actually going to go through with this. It's like, we're going to kill it in Bergen County finally now. So like, I literally was like, what is what I don't have? And I was like, okay, I don't have a physical therapist. And that was like my top thing. Like, I could always get a nutritionist later. I could always get like recovery equipment later. Like, but again, back to what I said, that like, I don't know everything. Who knows more than me, especially like with what I deal with. I have a lot of basketball players. I got a lot of guys that end up with either shoulder injuries, ankle injuries, like, you know, the typical injuries in basketball. I'm like, you know what? Let me get a physical therapist in here. So now we're closer to making this into a one-stop shop here for training and whatnot. And that's where my thought process went.
That's great, man. Because when you got connected, like our first meeting, we talked for like an hour and a half easily. And for me, where I'm at now in my life, in my career, is we want to grow with the people that we share common ground and value with, because that to me is more important than anything. And and being able to talk to you, like picking your brain, and then you trusting us, sending your patients to us, and then vice versa. I think it's been a great process. And the one thing
we were doing it before we even thought about getting into
and then that's why I was saying, like, it's perfect timing in some way, where like the team is hungry to grow, and we have kids that travel all the way from Bergen County to come see us, so it only makes sense. But the one thing I really wanted to build a robust, strong community, with someone like you, so that way, when we are facing stuff together, when we have families, we're helping together, it's never just you alone. It's never just me alone. Now it's us spearheading together. Now it's us problem solving together. And now, there's a multi, prong approach when parents come in, they hand their child over, like, hey, help them out, help her out. It's just you and I and the team just kind of going through it together. So that way, at the end of the day, we want to give the athlete all the best resources available. Correct. Right? And before I even start in this location, I flew out to Dallas to Exos. I went to Bomberino down in Miami. And for me, it's like, Dallas, Phoenix, Florida has all this access, where Jersey athletes are some of the best athletes, and they don't have that.
They don't have the access. They don't have the same access.
And I'm just like, how do we create something to help family, right? From parents top down all the way to the kids. How do we create something where this is what it's going to take to make Jersey super strong when it comes to athletic development? We're talking about long-term development, right? And this is what's going to keep everybody healthy. And this is how we're going to keep, passing the torch forward. Because the more you and I are doing this, there's going to be other people who's going to follow the same model, right? So now we're changing, selfishly speaking, I want to change the narrative of healthcare. Yeah. Because like I mentioned before, we have been burned during COVID, where people have big distrust. I have a big distrust, right? I always ask for second opinion and all of that stuff. Yeah. And now we got to the point where we have someone like you like other doctors that we put in our network that we truly trust, that they're going to advocate for that individual first rather than themselves first.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm excited. So obviously you guys heard it. We're going to start October 1st. So if you're up in the Bergen County area and you're looking for a place to call your second home, where you know you get great care, you know you're going to get, you know, your potential realized in some way, and you know you're going to have a great time doing it. Obviously, give Ju a call, give me a call, and then from there we'll get you started. And we're just excited because I know for a fact that there are so many athletes out there, athletes everywhere, but only a small select few that's going to take their career and their path seriously, and only a small select few that their family is going to be, you know, invested in getting their kids better. So if you are those select few and you want a place to call a second home, we'll welcome you with open arms.
Oh, it's going to be a great time.
Yeah.
It's going to be a great time.
Ju, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you
having me.
Yeah. It's great talk. Can't wait to see you every day.
Absolutely. Oh, goodness.
Yeah.